Becca Ballant if she will answer. Right or wrong, raping children?
Wrong.
Right or wrong, killing random citizens?
Definitely wrong.
Right or wrong, enriching yourself as the sitting president of the United States?
Definitely wrong.
Okay, thank you, because I probably never would have got that with our witness. Our witness who somehow is a lawyer but does not understand how it works with witnesses. I'm not really sure what law school she went to and what all kind of cases she tried, but typically when you come into a space and somebody's a witness, then they sit there and they answer questions instead of asking questions. And then we also have this objection that we use as lawyers called non-responsive when a witness fails to actually answer the question. But nevertheless, let me address the survivors, because that's exactly who they are. They are not victims, they are survivors. Let me say thank you for having more courage and moral clarity in your pinky fingers than the entire Department of Justice. We are currently the laughing stock of the world, partially because of the failed leadership within the DOJ, as we see kings and queens falling everywhere around the world. But we don't know the basics of right and wrong in this country, because it's not about partisanship. And that's why I applaud Thomas Massie, because he's the only person on the Republican side that has a backbone and knows how to stand up to corruption. But nevertheless, let me keep going. My Democratic colleagues have been attacked this entire committee hearing. They have been lied on, and frankly, the American people weren't looking for that. They were looking for answers about the corruption that they see coming from this administration. In the written testimony of this witness, of this particular witness, she stated that when she took office, she had two main goals. The first was to end the weaponization of justice, and second, to return the department to its core mission. Not only have you lied about both, you've intentionally done the exact opposite. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting journalists than you are prosecuting pedophiles and creeps. In fact, your boss, the President of the United States, stated that this administration, quote, took the freedom of speech away. And at your direction, DOJ has arrested Don Lemon and Georgia Fort. And I might add that y'all actually had a judge that rejected y'all for trying to arrest Don Lemon before, just like the grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Kelly, just like a grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Slotkin, just like the case against Tish James was dismissed and the case against Mr. Comey was dismissed. I completely don't get how it is that you're sitting at the top of DOJ, because you don't seem to be good at your job. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting these journalists. In fact, we know after Georgia Fort and Don Lemon were arrested, we know that there were homes of journalists that were raided. We know that threatened prosecution against students protesting your actions and forced tech companies to remove apps used to track ISIS activities. But let's circle back to you protecting pedophiles and creeps, because I want to talk about the president and his possible involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I don't know what the president might have done with Jeffrey Epstein, but unlike this administration, I believe that facts matter, so let's talk about the facts. Fact number one, Donald Trump is one of the most named people in the Epstein files. At least 5,000 files contained more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago. Fact number two, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made young girls available to Trump on multiple occasions. For example, according to this file, Ghislaine Maxwell presented a young girl to President Trump who spent more than 20 minutes apparently flirting with her. Here's another example. This shows notes from FBI investigators that describe Jeffrey Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, where he bragged to Trump that, quote, this is a good one. Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in these files that suggests that he's very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles. What's crazy about all of this is just that this is a big cover-up. And this administration is engaged in it. In fact, this administration is complicit. But there are numerous others, like how the DOJ is attempting to obstruct justice in the investigation of the rogue agents who have murdered American citizens, or how the DOJ seized voter data from Fulton County in an attempt to steal the 2026 midterm elections, or how federal agents have Tom Homan on tape accepting a bribe and your agency killed the investigation, or how your agency is ready to give the president a $230 million payday, which is unconstitutional. The Constitution is clear. The president shall not receive any payment except his salary while in office. The fact of the matter is that you will be remembered as one of the worst attorney generals in history, an attorney general who has prioritized obstruction over justice, corruption over the law, fealty to the president over loyalty to the Constitution. And Mr. Chairman, I will yield.
Gentlelady yields. Gentleman from Missouri is recognized. Excuse me, gentleman from Kansas, the Attorney General, former Attorney General, Mr. Schmidt is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and General Bondi, thanks for being here. Did you have anything you wanted to say before we talk?
I do. Thank you, Congressman. Thank you, my friend, for many years. I find it interesting that she didn't even want to try, Congresswoman Crockett, to ask any questions, because she certainly did not condemn her leader, Hakeem Jeffries, for taking money from Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein was convicted. And I will be brief to give you your time, Congressman. This is what she didn't want to talk about. Texas, from Cuba, convicted, homicide, arson, weapon offense.
Convicted.
You know,
So what we
Estrada,
talking about? Convict some of these
convicted,
perpetrators that
homicide.
rape these women that are
Chairman,
sitting
time
behind you,
time
that
belongs
you
to the
refuse
gentleman
to even
from
acknowledge
Kansas.
they are here.
Time belongs to the
Texas.
gentleman from Kansas.
Mr. Chairman, could I have a few seconds
You
back?
bet.
So imagine stepping into a congressional oversight hearing and you're expecting this dry, totally standard legal Q&A about Department of Justice policy.
Right, just typical bureaucratic stuff.
Exactly. But instead, you walk straight into these wild, unverified accusations of bribery, presidential cover-ups, and get this, the Jeffrey Epstein files.
It is genuinely a remarkable piece of source material. We're looking at a transcript of an exchange between Representative Jasmine Crockett and a DOJ witness, General Bondi.
And just to be clear up front, our mission today isn't to figure out who, quote-unquote, won the argument, right? We just want to neutrally examine the exact, really severe allegations they're trading back and forth.
Yeah, we're looking at the mechanics of it,
Wow.
how modern congressional hearings actually operate.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because Crockett doesn't start with questions about policy at all. She comes right out with an accusation that the DOJ has totally inverted its core mission.
She really does. She argues that instead of prosecuting, pedophiles and creeps, they're actually spending taxpayer money to arrest journalists.
Wait, journalists? Who specifically?
Well, she fires off this highly specific list. She brings up the arrests of journalists like Don Lemon and Georgia Ford. She talks about raided homes, threats against protesting students, and
Wow, that's a lot.
yeah, and she even claims they forced tech companies to remove apps that were being used to track ISIS.
And she didn't stop there, right? Because she also rattled off this whole list of dismissed cases involving Tish James, Mr. Comey, Senators Kelly and Slacken. It felt like a strategy of sheer volume.
Oh, absolutely. By firing off this rapid sequence of claims, she's trying to overwhelm the witness.
So it makes you wonder, are we looking at a functioning justice system here or a political hit list? Because she also threw in that grievance about the DOJ supposedly killing an investigation into federal agents catching Tom Homan accepting a bribe on tape.
Right, the bribery tape?
Plus, an allegedly unconstitutional $230 million payday for the president.
And see, it's not necessarily about proving every single one of those cases in that exact moment. It's about creating so much smoke that anyone watching just assumes there has to be a fire.
Right, framing the DOJ as just a personal enforcement arm. But here's where it gets really interesting. She uses all of that as a battering ram to pivot to the Epstein files.
She does. And before we get into the details, we should probably pause and remind everyone that we are strictly impartial here.
Yes, absolutely. We are not endorsing these viewpoints or saying they're true. We are just reporting what was actually said on the congressional floor.
Exactly. So Crockett claims the president is heavily named in these files. She cites at least 5,000 files with over 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago.
38,000 references. And she actually read from alleged FBI investigator notes during the hearing, didn't she?
She did. She read a specific note claiming Epstein transported a victim to Mar-a-Lago and bragged to the president, quote, "This is a good one."
Man, so when someone points a flashlight at a controversy that massive, you'd think the defense would try to turn it off, right? Like General Bondi would deny it or defend the DOJ's independence.
You would think so, but she doesn't do that at all. Bondi's response is basically a rhetorical smoke grenade.
So what does she do?
Instead of addressing the Trump and Epstein claims directly, Bondi pivots to attack the Democratic leader, Hakeem Jeffries. She claims he took money from Epstein after Epstein was convicted.
Wow, so just immediately throw him a punch right back.
Yep. And she also brings up a convicted criminal from Texas and Cuba, citing homicide and arson just to completely redirect the focus.
I mean, if we connect this to the bigger picture... Hey, actually, that's your line.
Yeah. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this perfectly illustrates political deflection. Answering an accusation with a totally separate counter-accusation.
So what does this all mean? We've just walked through this dizzying exchange of extreme, totally unverified allegations ranging from bribery to Epstein connections.
It just shows how these hearings have shifted. It's less about fact-finding and more about mutual character destruction.
Which leaves us with a pretty unsettling final thought to ponder. If congressional oversight relies entirely on mutually assured character destruction and deflections like we just saw, how is the average citizen ever supposed to separate actual legal facts from political fiction?